Joining us right here on the Rich Eisen Show is the man who has formed the QB Summit, and he is one of the top quarterback consultants in the sport of football. Good to see you in person, Jordan Palmer. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So let's just jump right into it. You've got some kids at the collegiate level who you are counseling and you are making better, who can win the national championship this year. Walk me through the names of the guys that you.
This is interesting. I mean, one, congratulations on all your success. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about Michigan.
Thank you.
Being
It is my success.
Legitimately legitimate.
They are legitimate, huh?
They're not. They didn't get really lucky 3 weeks. The Big Ten's not having the worst year ever, and therefore Michigan's shooing in. I mean, they're legitimately good. So it's been awesome, man. Cade McNamara has been a guy I've been around since he was little. JT Daniels at Georgia. It's been a very interesting year with him getting hurt, and then Stetson Bennett playing at a really high level. I think we may end up looking back on this defense and saying it's one of the best defenses ever in Georgia. And so JT's been a guy I spent a lot of time with. And Desmond Ridder, you know, as it sits right now, has finally been able to get over that hump and be a non-group of five or whatever it is, where Cincinnati's in there. And so, yeah, it's been a blast to be able to watch that. And Bryce Young in Alabama. So it's going to be this year, it's very quarterback heavy, where the quarterbacks are big reasons for why things are happening. And it makes it really fun to watch.
So obviously it's not a one-size-fits-all way of grooming a quarterback.
Yeah.
It's who they are. It's what beats inside. It's obviously neck up. It's the God-given ability and so on and so forth. Cade McNamara, you said you've known him since a kid, right?
Little guy, yeah, 6th grade, yeah.
6th grade.
Yeah. Honestly, like probably spent as much time with Cade as anybody. It just the family never missed a camp. He was living in Reno, always coming back down. By no means was he ever the guy where you said he's going to be, you know, God graced him with, he's not 6'5", he doesn't have the craziest arm I've ever seen, he doesn't run a 4.2. He's just got a little something different in him, the way he competes, and the way he
comports himself, not just in the moment, but when a microphone's in front of him, he just, it oozes, the leadership oozes out of him. So what is his challenge to try and, you know, cash in this house money that's been handed to the Michigan Wolverines right now with that win over Ohio State and the opportunity to actually take it all right now?
If you think about, like, what has he done well? What he's done well is handle difficult situations well, right? They're not winning because he's sprinting to his right and throwing it 60 yards across the field to his left, making crazy plays. He's not turning it over. He's making great decisions. I think he's got 3 or 4 turnover-worthy plays since he's been the starter, going back to last year.
I can remember them all.
Yeah.
That's how they stand out, because they're outliers. They kind of shock you when it happens.
Like the one Ohio State, you're kind of like, whoa,
right?
Because he's not risky with it. So I think what it is it's maximizing this opportunity of it's the balance of, okay, control those turnover-worthy plays, but also when to be aggressive, and that's just something usually guys learn as they get into the NFL. But really cerebral, really competitive, really mature kids do that well in college. Cade's done that well so far in college. He's got to do that for a couple more weeks.
What can you share with me what Harbaugh tells him? What can you share about a relationship between coach and quarterback that you're willing to share right here?
Well, I think the irony is Cade's got a lot of, from what I don't know Harbaugh as a player.
I was there freshman year. He's got a lot.
Is that where the picture you running from?
No,
used to wear a tie to school.
That is definitely not me in school. No, that's me as an older man. But yeah,
older, faster man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think from what I hear, Harbaugh, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, the way that, like, in 2021, kids care a lot about perception and social media and likes and how things are, you know, perceived. Like, Cade doesn't. It's very old school. He doesn't really care about Instagram. He doesn't really care about any of that stuff. He's trying to win. And so I think what Cade was able to do is kind of mirror what Jim wanted, was this all ball, don't care about any of the other fluff. And that's who he is naturally. Cade didn't have to act like that. And so I think that's two things where those guys, again, I went around Jim as a player, but I see a lot of those things where Jim's I know guys used to talk about how he was always competitive in these situations where they shouldn't have been competitive. Like the QB challenge, right? He's the guy who took it more serious. Cade kind of takes everything really serious, too. He competes in everything.
Well, what is it like then to watch a kid in J.J. McCarthy come running out, though? How does that come into the mix? So in your conversations with Cade McNamara,
what I've used as an example, because I don't care who you are. If you're a competitor, I want to be on the field. Don't take me out.
Well, I mean, pretty much every other kid that you've mentioned that you have playing in these, obviously JT Daniels is hurt, but these guys don't really come off the field like Cade does sometimes.
Yeah. So what I use is Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. So Drew Brees got to a place in New Orleans. I think Drew got to a place where he believed that Taysom going in the hill in this series at third down. You've been around Drew long enough to know the competitor that Drew is.
Yeah.
I don't think Drew had interest in not playing or taking a breather. But I think Drew had to get to a place where mentally he felt like Taysom going in the field, I'm going to get to a place where I believe that I'm going to have a shorter field when I go back in. This is going to be a good thing for our offense. This is going to move us. It's a very difficult thing for quarterbacks to deal with. One of the things I saw in the game on TV last weekend, JJ, who I've spent time with JJ. I think JJ's going to be a star. It's awesome. JJ has a little zone read, and they had number 14, the little guy, kind of stock block, and he goes down the sideline, and JJ drops a dime.
He did.
Right in there. And there's very slow-mo cut of a legitimate Cade pointing on, where's the camera at?
They're right there.
Cade, great ball fired up. You know what I mean? And I think that's the growth where you're going, he's so locked in on us scoring on this drive, I don't care who gets us down there. And I think you got to be able to get there if you're going to win a championship. You can have a good offense doing that, but to win a championship, you've got to really get there, and I think Cade's there.
Jordan Palmer here on the Rich Eisen Show, the Quarterback Summit. We'll talk about some tour dates of how you're taking your show on the road in a moment right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Trevor Lawrence, where is he in your estimation, and how do we view his first 11 starts in the NFL right now?
Every rookie who ends up playing has a different start. We've seen guys start hot. We've seen a ton of guys start a lot worse than Trevor. Really, I mean, when you're the number one pick, you're taking over a team who earned the number one pick. And so you have the roster, a roster that needs to be developed and all that. What I look at Trevor is how often are you making the same decisions, good ones or bad ones, over and over again. I think there are certain interceptions that every quarterback has to throw to know they can't throw that ball. Meaning, if I've got, let's say, a sail route, and I think I can get it over the corner, the cornerback, but I'm not sure. I did in college. I'm not sure in the league. You throw that corner picks it off. Okay, that registers. I can't. That's not a throw I can make. Or back late across the middle on a naked. There's just those certain throws. You got to kind of do it. Coach can tell you not to do it, but you got to do it, feel it to be able to harness that. I don't see Trevor making a lot of the same mistakes twice. I see him being aggressive, pushing the ball down the field, trying to execute this offense quickly. Roster-wise, they're going to continue to evolve. This is year one, new staff, new everything. But I just don't see Trevor making a lot of the same mistakes over and over again, which means I see him progressing. And at no point did the game seem too big or too fast or too hard or too complex. So I think he's progressing nicely, and I think everyone should be patient.
Well, the 9 losses that they have this year matches the number of losses that Urban had in his entire tenure at Ohio State right now. And so he's not used to losing, and neither is Trevor. How's he handling
Trevor
losses?
Was 86, I think it was 86-4 high school, college combined.
Right. So now he's lost twice the number of games he's ever lost in his entire life in the span of 3 months.
Yeah.
How's he handling that?
I think it's funny when that ESPN article came out and people talked about what does he mean he doesn't have to compete against other people. I just think Trevor's very self-confident. He knows what he knows, believes what he believes about himself, and what he believes right now, and what I believe about him is this is part of your rookie year. You got to learn. Whether you're 12-4, 4-12, you got to learn. And so there's so much that can happen over the course of this first year where you can still learn and evolve even though it doesn't show up in stats or doesn't show up in wins or losses. So from my perspective, from across the country watching on TV, I feel like I'm seeing him progress, not make the same mistakes twice, and I don't have any concerns about his confidence moving forward.
Okay, it's not his confidence. What about the scheme around him? What about the staff that's there? I mean, you hear stuff out of Jacksonville. Urban brought in some college guys, and there's the pro guys, and there's a lot of bashing about that, and there's your prize prospect sitting right in the middle of all that.
Yeah. I think one of the things that happens and why you have to be so mature to play quarterback at the NFL level is you have to deal with so many things that people like us can sit around and speculate and talk about. You have to be able to handle those, whether you're 21 or 31. Nobody cares, right? Once they pick you number one or they give you a bunch of money, they don't care how old you are. And so I don't know all the things that are going on there, but I would just bet on his maturity, what he's been through. I feel like being the face of college football for a couple of years is bigger than being the face of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the magnitude of it and the eyeballs. So I just think he's so well positioned to whatever the good stuff that's going on, whatever the issues they're having, like that's the kind of guy you want to put in there, not somebody who's going to kind of stir it up or put stuff out in the public, but somebody who's going to internally handle it and develop it. And so I don't know all the stuff that's going on in Jacksonville, but I bet on Trevor that he can kind of like right that ship.
Jordan Palmer here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'm sure you saw it on Thanksgiving night. There was a split screen on the NBC broadcast of the body angle that Josh Allen was throwing from when he was in college and what he looks like right now. Like where in college it looked like he was like Dwight Freeney coming around the end. You know what I mean? Like almost at a 45-degree angle, right? Yeah. And now he's just like, as I call him, like the Mandalorian standing tall back there and firing away. What do you think he still needs to work on? As we were talking about him as an MVP candidate coming into the season, early part of the season, not so much right now. What are your 2 cents on that? If you're as a guy who's been getting him upright and getting him going prior to his pro career, Jordan.
I think, I mean, as good as that roster is, I know Tre'Davious White, time will tell how big of a loss that was. It's got to be a big one. That guy's a great player, but that roster is really, really solid. That's a team that can go all the way. That's a quarterback that can take them all the way. I just think for them it comes down to consistency, and that shows up in execution and defense and tackling, all the different phases of the game. So as a quarterback, you got to own all the consistency side of it, and the way that usually plays out is in decision making and moving and throwing. Are you doing the same things? And so I think this year, I don't know that I don't know that his goal was MVP or bust. I think it was Super Bowl or bust, and the reality is you can build on those and learn from it throughout the year. So Josh is continuing to evolve. He showed the level he can play at, and as that team continues to kind of find this year's identity. Last year it was so much Diggs and Josh, and this year other guys are stepping up. Dawson Knox has emerged.
They don't run it though. They hardly run it. You know, like he's their running back. It seems like, you know, with due respect to everyone else out there. So I sometimes feel like so much is put on him, and he feels the need to do the proverbial do too much. Yeah, like is that a real conversation to be had between, you know, quarterback guru and prospect?
100%. I think when you play quarterback, you're in control of risk mitigation. Running back's not. Running back can fumble, can make a play, or can just run into the back of the guard and get 2 yards. But the quarterback's in charge of that risk mitigation, right? When am I going to press it? When am I going to be a little bit more conservative? And when you get the truly competitive, like the elite competitive, like the guy that I wouldn't want to fight, competitive guys, it takes time and reps to be able to really control that. And so in that moment, okay, so a couple years ago, I think they blew a lead versus Deshaun Watson and Texans, kind of took some sacks, tried to make a play that wasn't there.
In the playoffs.
Like tried to make a play that wasn't there.
They got screwed by a crazy call in the middle of overtime as well, but yes.
That's right. They all blur together.
No, but there were times where he was
making
trying
a play
to do too much.
that may not be there to be made. Right? And so sometimes throwing the ball out of bounds is the best possible outcome for this play. That's been an area where I've just seen Josh physically, the side-by-side comparison can show you, but that's where I've seen the evolution of him, which is why I had pretty high expectations for the Buffalo Bills this year, and they actually, despite a game or two here or there, they haven't changed for me, because I bet by the time these games get very serious, starting on Monday night, that we're going to really see that version where, no, in those moments, he's making the right decision all the time.
Well, you know, Belichick's going to put him in that position. He's going to put him in the position of trying to take the cheese. He's going to put him in the position of trying to do too much. He knows exactly how to scheme that sort of thing. We have Devin McCourty coming up, too. I'm sure that there's going to be certain plays circled in that regard.
For sure.
That is going to be the challenge on Monday night.
Fired up for that game. These two teams, who would have thought that this was going to be this relevant?
Well, that guy over there, he's the Patriot guy over there. He chose the Patriots to win their division. Right. So, you know, yes, he did. He actually did do that. And, you know, I just thought he was a Patriot honk. But now we're seeing Mac Jones do what he's doing right now. Where does Mac Jones's rookie season rank for you, seeing this?
It's one of the best. I don't know. I don't go off of stats a lot. But my takeaway was, and you this will be right up your alley, watching Brady at Gillette this year drive down the field and put it out again. Just watching Mac Jones warm up on the sideline, he just had that look, and he didn't get a chance to go back in. He just had that look on his face like there was no question that he was going to come right back in and score. And I just remember telling people, if I was a Patriots fan, I would be stoked on how tonight went. Get the little swan song, goodbye to Brady when Brady came back in Tampa. But your young rookie just went toe-to-toe and had no concerns for the 20-plus year. Like, that's a confident dude. And I get that he played at Bama and he's an Elite 11 kid. He's been around it. But I'm still continually blown away by just how quickly Mac is advancing. It's awesome.
It's 6 straight dubs for him, and he runs it with incredible efficiency. Kurt Warner said he's doing more in this offense in his first year than what was asked of Brady in his first year in the offense. He's doing more, is what he said.
I would say not close, for sure. Yeah, I mean, just the little things, like he hit Hunter Henry on a quick little slant. You watch it on TV, it looks like he threw a slant to Hunter Henry. No, he didn't. He looked left in a way that made number 56 run and fall as he brought his eyes back, hit Hunter Henry out of his breath. It's just the way he's manipulating defenses with his eyes.
I love it.
Most rookies are trying to memorize the play and then trying to memorize what their job is and where they should go.
Right.
I just don't see Mac Jones doing that. I see Mac Jones right now already having all that taken care of and starting to manipulate the defense and use his eyes in ways that rookies don't usually do.
So, with the way that the defense is playing, do you think they can win the Super Bowl this year?
I still think it's going to be really difficult for them to beat Buffalo in a way where they can advance in the playoffs. I think it's going to be tough, but it's just because I haven't seen, this is all new. New England doing it. I've been watching Buffalo play really well for a couple of years now.
Jordan Palmer here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's your diagnosis of what's going on with Baker Mayfield in Cleveland?
Well, I think I'll say this. When it comes to the draft, I think we might have talked about this. When it comes to drafting quarterbacks, guys are busts, guys are not busts. I believe that teams bust on developing the quarterback more than the player was a bust. By the way, Baker Mayfield, but I'm not combining those two. But when we evaluate quarterbacks, Did it work, did it not? The times when it didn't work, I think it has more to do with what the team did to develop. Now, in Baker's case, and a lot of guys where I would put on that list, he's just had a lot of different things. Hugh Jackson his first year, and then that gets fired, and then Freddie Kitchens takes over, and then now here, and then they add in OBJ, and they also add in a great roster. He's got a great offensive line, great run game, great defense. So it's just a lot.
Right, and in that regard, the newness of last year, it blossomed so well with Stefanski and without Odell, I must say. But it blossomed so well, they make the playoffs, they boat race the Steelers out. They go to Kansas City and really gave the Chiefs a heck of a game in that divisional round, and it's just been regressed right now. It's been a step backwards, right? And so the consistency that you're saying that might have been missed was actually, in a way, there this year, although Odell was in and then out.
That's the biggest question. The first couple years, it's just hard. It's just hard for me to evaluate a guy when every year it's completely different, right? And this is now coming off of 2 years where it was a lot of consistency and haven't seen them take that next step. I was pretty surprised. I thought they'd be rolling on offense. I thought their ability to run the ball and play action. And look, Baker's accurate. He can push the ball down the field. He's proven that. This guy was a walk-on twice and a Heisman finalist 3 times. I mean, I'm not wondering whether or not he can throw it, but I am wondering what that piece is that has not allowed them to continue to grow from last year.
So are we.
He looked great.
I know the general manager, Andrew Berry, said today that there's something missing in the passing game. The passing game is not firing right now. And, of course, you look at the quarterback for that sort of thing. So whenever film you do see of Baker, what are you seeing that's either firing or not? I mean, what is it for Browns fans to kind of hang their hat on? Who are certainly some Browns fans are saying, let's get Case Keenum out there right now. What do you think from what you might be
I
seeing?
haven't studied them too much. What I will say is what you have to be able to do in this league at an elite level if you're going to continue to progress is you have to be able to throw into tight windows from tight spaces. And that's something where I've always wondered, because he didn't do it a lot at Oklahoma because of the system. They were just really good. Dudes were wide open. We look at who he was throwing to. Kind of all went first or second round, right? Mark Andrews was his tight end. Hollywood, these different guys. So that it's throwing from tight spaces into tight windows. We were talking about Cade McNamara from Michigan earlier.
Yes.
That's what he's done well this year. It's not the crazy plays. It's tight spaces, tight windows. That's been a thing for Baker where I evaluate a lot of these guys coming in. And if they haven't done it in college, maybe they just weren't put in a position to do it. Doesn't mean they can't. I think that would probably be the one area that I would point to and go, I don't know that I've seen a ton of progression there. Doesn't mean that it's not going to progress. everyone's going to miss a deep ball every now and then. That happens, but it's that throwing into tight windows from tight spaces. Typically bigger guys have an easier job with it, but at some point everybody's got to be able to do that because that's how most third downs.
So I think the question is, because part of the issue for Baker is he's drafted first overall in a draft that does include, again, one of your clients and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who are just phenomenal, and guys who can say, I'm taking it over.
Yep.
I'm taking it over with my legs and my arm. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to win games. And Lamar won an MVP in that way, and he's even better passing now. So is it possible in this day and age that somebody can have that blossoming? Not this, it doesn't have to be both ways, two ways with arms and legs, but just a blossoming into dynamic franchise, taking it over no matter what's going on defense or running game tonight, for somebody to do that in years 5 through 8 of their NFL career?
100%. 100%. So what's happened is from media and fans and fantasy football and instant gratification, I need to know right now.
Right.
And we were so quick to cast guys aside. You know, second year, he's not even good. Development doesn't have a timeline, right? We can create a timeline and say, well, if they're not good by year 3, then, right, based off contracts. But I mean, my brother had a great run in Cincinnati, and then it was tough for a while in Oakland, and then, you know, Bruce Arians and Larry Fitzgerald and the right pieces, and all of a sudden, poof, he's in the NFC Championship runner-up for MVP. And that was like year 12.
Right.
Alex Smith's, his best statistical year was in Kansas City after 7 coordinators in San Francisco. I think it was legitimately 7 coordinators in San Francisco. Well, yeah, because he had got to a place where it wasn't just he had good wideouts, the development had peaked and matched what's around him. So guys who are 2, 3, 4 years in who haven't had success yet, I just think it's way too early to throw in the towel. I want to see them in a good situation. And before I evaluate, I just have a hard time evaluating somebody in a bad situation.
So then put it in a point. Is Baker in a bad situation right now?
No, I think the first couple of years was any number 1 pick is going to have a lot of turnover and a lot of that stuff. But no, I think this last year and a half has been a good situation from, again, not in the locker room, don't know the ramifications and stuff. But yeah, I think it's a situation where you could go, yeah, you'd want to see some success out of this.
And how about Cleveland with him? You think Cleveland should stick with him? You know, they're at that point in time of, you know, having to give a long-term deal and stuff like that. What do you think of that front?
I don't know if I have an opinion on that. I would just always err on the side of, if you have invested a lot of, I don't even care about the money because you're spending the money one way or another, right?
Right, yeah.
Right? Invested this much time and resources and reps and built around it. I always err on the side of, give it another year, right? Like, just because everyone else is impatient, do we think this guy can, what are the issues? Do we think we can get him there? And if we can, let's invest in those resources. The side-by-side of Josh Allen used to throw now, they put great resources around them. They are open to all of it. They hired a great quarterback coach in Ken Dorsey. They weren't concerned with how many people haven't improved accuracy.
Yes.
Brandon Beane built something to improve the accuracy.
So before I let you go, the QB Summit's coming to potentially a town near everybody listening and watching?
Yeah, I always ran camps out here, and it's been awesome. And when COVID, it made it tough before. And so, yeah, I'm going to do a tour around the country, 12 stops, 10 cities, and I'm going to announce it next week and run it like a tour.
Where can people find out when you announce it next week?
It'll be on QBSummit.com.
QBSummit.com. Yep. And what does that mean, coming to town? Like, you can come out?
So I run camps. I keep them at 40. I take all the stuff that I do with older guys, but it's for 10 to 17-year-olds.
Okay.
I've ran probably 30 of these locally over the last few years.
Sure.
And I've just ramped it up and made it really cool. And it's really kind of more of like a transformative thing. It's a weekend where they're going to get exposure to what it really takes to play quarterback and the tools to be able to do it instead of a bunch of drills.
10 to 17-year-olds. So let's go. Let's develop and let's go.
Young pups.
So you'll be able to say, like,
I'm getting old because I got a bunch of like players whose kids come now.
Who's that? We got.
Well, like my brother's kid. I've trained Mark Brunell's boys, Josh McCown's boys, like just these other, like these players' kids.
Hold on a second. There's more McCowns.
There's more McCowns.
How many more McCowns can there possibly be?
26 of them, I think. No, but hey, Luke's got some baller sons. Yep.
I bet.
Little Owen's a baller.
I bet. So you'll be able to come on this show years from now, and like you just said about Cade McNamara, I've known him since the 6th grade.
Yeah.
Wow. So you go to QBSummit.com, and you can follow Jordan Palmer on Twitter at JWPalms. I do it. You should as well. Good to see you here, sir. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.